Jesse.
Hey, Patrick, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Doing just fine. Right off the bat, I'm familiar with a lot of your work, and I was kind of wondering, were you always a horror fan, or is it just kind of a coincidence that most of your projects happen to be horror?
No, growing up, certainly horror was something I was not allowed to see or watch or whatever. I remember being scared to death at the opening, the voodoo opening of Live and Let Die. And just, when they kill the guy with the snake and stuff like that. And, so it was always a thing I was drawn to. Certainly, my sister, who was like 8 years older than me, she would go see all these kind of movies, and she would tell me them beat for beat the next morning. I would sit in her room, and she would say, "Well, in The Exorcist, this happened," and be like, "Oh, I can't believe that."
Oh, my gosh.
I sort of got addicted because it was the thing that I wasn't allowed to experience, and then was very lucky to work with Wes Craven in 1991, and started down the horror road with him, and just decided to stay.
Definitely a great mentor. Speaking of kind of going off of that, with Trick, I can see some inspiration from Scream. Did you draw inspiration from that, or is there any other things that you brought to the table, from those past experiences?
I certainly, in working with Wes and talking about, the structure of Scream and how it worked, and the structure of a lot of his films, in the openings, and how you grab an audience and things like that. Wes always had this belief that it's important in the first 10-15 minutes of the movie to make the audience think you're insane, so that they can't trust anything you're going to do afterwards, because it buys you time to develop your characters and build everything up, and yet still they're drawn in because out of the bat you've done something that is in some ways reprehensible and unexpected. So that was something that definitely was a big influence with Trick.
Is there any anxiousness going into a film like this, like trying to deliver a new Halloween film or trying to deliver a new Halloween icon? I found personally, Todd and I weren't trying to, Todd Farmer, who wrote the film with me, he and I weren't trying to necessarily create another Halloween icon. We were really just trying to say, okay, how do we tell this story? How do we make it different than the other things that have gone before? What are the things about it that will be touchstones that people will draw people in, and then B, have things that are different. So it wasn't something that was necessarily daunting. It was just although we were consciously aware of the things that we wanted to have that were A, reminiscent, and B, set it apart. When I watched this, I kind of got hints of both, a fresh take on horror, as well as, kind of like a 90s throwback. From your perspective, was there one you were trying to particularly deliver? We wanted to, especially after, Valentine, we wanted to dip back into the slasher genre. We wanted to have something that was very detective-based, and we wanted to have sort of three primary characters, with Omar, Ellen Adair, and Christina Reyes, and what each of them represent. Omar being the older believer, Ellen Adair being the skeptic, and Christina being the innocent who must transform into a warrior in order to survive. Yeah. So those are the things that we felt were really something we wanted to do. And then we wanted a killer that was a little more unpredictable, and somebody who was incredibly fast, whose violence came on in a absolute frenzied storm. As opposed to the slow stalk. We wanted to do something more distressing than that. Yeah. Not that that's not distressing, but just something that we felt that would sort of set it apart. So we, deliberately had the killer be quite a bit younger, and a little bit more enigmatic and cryptic in terms of of how the killer is returns and what the killer ultimately is.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. That's perfect. Can you talk a little bit about casting Patrick, and what was it about Tom that stood out to you to play that role?
When we cast Tom Neiman to play Patrick Weaver, one of the things we wanted was somebody who just felt a little bit shucksy. Who just had a really nice quality and felt like, okay, this is sort of the sweet kid who always has a crush on the popular girl, but never really gets to go out with her and is sort of the friend and but doesn't feel damaged or anything like that. Just feels like a nice guy, and that was something we were looking for very specifically in casting that role.
Yeah, I thought he was a perfect choice, especially when you're kind of bringing up all the reasons behind it. Did you always have Tom Atkins in mind for Talbot, or like how?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Is there? What was there?
Yeah, there was no other choice.
Perfect. I found something kind of interesting online when I was poking around. After I watched the film, I had such a great time watching it. It was almost difficult for me to find criticisms. Like, it seems like everyone had a good time watching this film.
Great.
The one thing that stood out, or like that people kept coming back to, was there's an emotional moment in the film when a character comes out as gay, but then moments later she's decapitated. What's weird about this is that a scary amount of people thought that this was like some homophobic commentary. Since I have you on the line, I was kind of curious about.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And what's? Go ahead.
That is Danny Shea, who plays Jesse Green, is trans, and is Danny is awesome, and we read everybody of every gender identity for that part, and Danny was just the best. It had nothing to do with homophobia or anything. It was literally Danny was the best for it. This is the way the character was written. Interestingly enough, you ask about Tom. The first thing Tom read for, Tom Neiman, was for that role. Was for Green's role. So that's interesting in and of itself. But yeah, there's absolutely nothing homophobic intended in it. It is literally, there is no rhyme nor reason towards who is next.
Yeah, I figured as much.
Yeah.
I found that gripe particularly interesting because the only IMDb trivia listed for this film is that there's no relation to the gay-themed romantic comedy Trick, which came out 20 years ago.
Yes.
But those two things together it just seemed so hard. It was very hard for me not to mention because it just seemed so out of left field.
Yeah, and it's completely not the case. So yeah, I'm sort of surprised by that, but yeah. I don't know why. So people can assume all sorts of negative things.
So were we. Like it was an interesting topic among my friends that night. I know we have a limited amount of time. I do want to know: is there a sequel planned? Have you guys wrote a sequel? What's the next step for you and Todd? I'm sorry.
Todd and I talked about if we never got to do another one like with Valentine, that this is a movie that could totally stand on its own. At the same time, if people embraced it and we got to dip our toes back in, yes, we very much have something in mind for the continuing adventures of both our hero and our iconic villain.
And I love the movie. I would definitely be first in line to see a sequel. To wrap up,
oh, fantastic!
Everyone that I saw it with liked it as well, and so I wanted you to know that we had a great time watching it. To wrap up, Halloween.
Oh, thank you.
Halloween is coming up. Patrick, what do you think of the idea of changing Halloween from the 31st to the last Saturday of the month? There's a huge petition for this to make it more convenient for families. But I was curious as to your opinion, just to kind of wrap things up today.
I grew up with it on the 31st. I can't imagine it being any other day. You know, it's when the veil between this world and the next is the thinnest, right?
That's right.
That doesn't automatically become a Saturday. It's the 31st. It has to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. What do you think?
I think the same thing. The big argument is that it's for safety, and I don't really think it's more safe on a Saturday than it is on a Thursday. But
no. If anything, on a Saturday there could be more people out drunk.
Exactly. Yeah, the other people. But yeah, ultimately, I just wanted to say, man, it was an awesome ride, and thank you, Patrick, for your time here at CineDump. We let the doers know how they're doing, and you, sir, are doing just fine. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Jesse. I really appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
You too, buddy. Thank you. Have a good Halloween.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. You too. Bye-bye.